What's going on, Spittin Chiclets fans? Biz here, and thanks for tuning in to another interview as part of the ECHL Player Relief Fund interview series. And this one is brought to you by our good friends at Budweiser Canada. That's right, Budweiser Canada knows we're all part of one team fighting the same opponent right now. And they have stepped up to donate $10,000 to the ECHL Player Relief Fund. So keep drinking Budweiser responsibly and supporting restaurants, bars, and liquor stores who carry out through takeout and delivery options. We know times are not easy right now, so we're trying to give you guys as much content as we can. So we hope you enjoy this interview. Please stay safe, and once again, thank you to Budweiser Canada.
So I'll never forget when you first spoke to us on the Penguins. He left this meeting and kind of just addressing us for the first time, and everyone was like, holy shit. Literally, like, just not demanding respect, but almost you just want to listen to every word you said. You described leadership and what it meant to be on a team so well in just our first 30 minutes. But before we get into a lot of that stuff, I'm wondering, because so many people aren't sure, even myself, Army Rangers, Delta, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, is that all similar? I know it's different parts of the military and Navy, but...
Sure, they're all Tier 1 Special Operations units. So the Ranger Regiment, and now the Ranger Regiment's been in constant combat more than any other unit in the military. So the Ranger Regiment is a great foundation for learning and being in special operations. And a lot of those young men end up going to Delta Force. So Delta Force is actually, the pinnacle. Also a sister force would be the Navy SEALs and also Special Forces Green Berets. All do a little bit different things. All do some of the same things. But hardened warriors, get after it, kick ass, take names, and care for each other. A lot like athletes, right?
Yep.
So exactly.
Yeah, and that's probably how it's led into this ability for you to speak to athletes, where it's such different things that you're going against, but the whole idea of leadership and getting guys together to go after the same goal is all the same.
It's all the same. Everybody wants to win and do well, whether you're a stay-at-home parent or you're a school teacher or a first responder or you're working in an office. You want to be successful. You don't want to let your teammate down, your workmate down. So there's a lot of attributes that the military uses that civilian life athletes pick up. I mean, look at you both played this game at the highest level. You were in a 23-man platoon, right? Of course, your weapons of war were different, and maybe the outcomes were a little different too. But you learn things together by living together, being on the road together, working together, relying on each other, and those are the same attributes that people want to do.
I mean, but also in a hockey team, sometimes you get a selfish teammate, okay, and because of their talent, they're able to get to that top level. You're dealing with a totally different ball game where you're talking lives here. Do those selfish individuals squeak to the top, or when you're dealing with that, it's like, no way, they've been weeded out by then?
Well, all the special operations forces have a selection process to try to weed that out, just as you do too. Sometimes that does happen, and people do make it through. You work very hard to try to tailor that type of selfishness. I mean, one of the mantras is, I will never leave a fallen comrade. I will never leave a teammate. I will be a selfless servant. And so you work hard every day to try to mold that person into the right format. You might have did it with some fisticuffs. We used to have what we call the gig pit. We would go to this big sawdust pit and let's see who the last man standing.
Just square off.
Well, I remember when I was a young Ranger, and I could tell when we weren't working together, the platoon sergeant would be like, gig pit. We'd be like, no. And we would get there, and that was like, it was a battle for the ages.
Are those types of things still going on, or have they tightened it up because of the climate
and the culture?
Well, I mean, I think that, the military does do a lot of advanced combatives now. There's a lot of hand-to-hand combat. There's a lot of combatives. There's still boxing going on. If you're a cadet at West Point and you're a freshman, you're still going through boxing. So, or some type of combatives training. So, there are times that, you might have to put some hands on each other to learn things. But of course, we want to always try to inspire and motivate and educate. And I think that's the biggest part. And you probably had young teammates that were very talented. And as they got educated, they turned the corner a bit, right? They found ways you could bring that person in. Obviously, if you need that person to win, I need that person's gun in the fight. We try to have them adapt properly to the organization.
Interesting.
So you took to it right away, and I'm guessing you were good at it. I mean, the way you climbed the ranks, and you just enjoyed it that much that you knew right when you got in, all right, I'm in this for good. Like, I love this.
Well, look, I didn't know anything about it, and I was, next thing you know, I'm in basic training, AIT, airborne school. Then I go through, and it was called back in those days RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program, and I'm standing in this program with like 130 guys. I'm 18 years old, 5 months in the Army. I have no idea what I just stepped in for, and I was like, well, I'm just not going to quit today. That was my mantra. I'm not going to quit today. And when the days got tough, I'd be like, okay, I just got to make it to lunch, right? Like they can cut me, but I'm not going to quit. And next thing you know, I was standing with about 33 men left, and got to go to my Ranger.
How many started? Sorry,
over 130.
Jesus,
and so
that's a crazy drop off.
And so then I get to my unit, and fortunately I had a great squad leader. He's in my book, Staff Sergeant Hugh Roberts. He's a legend in the Rangers, retired Sergeant Major as well, and took me under his wing and helped me and mold me. And I think we talked a little bit about when you're being drafted to a team, right?
Yeah, we were just chatting about this.
Yeah, like when you're being drafted to a team, like that team has to like own you and help you. And some teams do it better than others. And that's part of that developmental process. Everybody needs something differently, right? So you as a leader have to find out what that person needs to be successful.
So, JB, when you first joined the Army, you said you really had no idea what you want to do. I know some guys going, I want to be a SEAL. I want to do this. I want to do that. But, you keep working your way up. Was there some point you get to your train, you're like, okay, holy shit, we're doing this now? Okay. Do you ever get to that level? Like, wow, I'm in some shit here.
Well, it was about 2 years in. Great question. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. And then, I kept getting promoted. I kept going to all these great, what they call them HUA schools, Halo and Pathfinder, all these great military schools where you're learning different things. And next thing you know, in 1989, Manuel Noriega went crazy, and we jump into Panama. I'm 26 years old. I leave an aircraft at about 450 feet.
That low.
It was low. We were on the ground, and I remember I didn't even check my parachute. I looked down, and I see tracers going everywhere. I'm like,
damn.
Okay, this is it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the dance.
This is it.
It's on, huh?
It's on.
How old are you at that point?
I was probably 26. So it's my first time in combat. This is
8 years in.
This is what you've been training for, and I was like, oh, here we go. So
that was your first NHL game, right?
That was my first NHL game.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly.
Stepped on the ice.
Yeah. It just so happened to be Game 7 of the Cup.
Yeah.
So and I just think that I grew up. I had a great family. My mother and father were very, very supportive and helped me throughout life. And I just tried to, come from humble means, and I tried to impart what I've learned on people. And I think that's where it was very good for me. Also as a drill instructor. And then when I worked at West Point, I got to tell you, I learned. I knew nothing about West Point either. As a sergeant being selected to be a TAC non-commissioned officer, and now I'm there and. I'm partly in charge of a cadet company, and I learned so much there too.
Yeah.
So
now, as you're in more and more of these situations, you get more experience. Are you able to stay calm through the whole thing, or are there some situations despite all your training, just the human nature takes over and you shit your pants even though you don't want to?
Well, I think what you do is it's like playing in the NHL game. You don't think about it. You got a job to do, and I got to do it.
Okay.
So, I'll worry about it later.
Okay.
So if it's my job to take down this target or guard this alley or whatever it is, I'm going to have to do. Take it. It's the job I got to do right now.
Right.
Worry about it later.
Kind of compartmentalize a little bit.
Compartmentalized. I remember, I just, and once you get, once you've been shot at, then you're like, okay, that's what it sounds like.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah, like taking a puck to the face.
Take a puck to the
Keep
face.
the hockey
Exactly.
analogy going. Yeah.
Well, I want to get into more of that, but the hockey aspect, when did it all come about? I know Glenn said there was the beginning of it, but you just spoke to hockey players and right away there was a connection, right? And so you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed seeing you, right?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. And it was, I felt, a part of your team. And when I was helping you, I felt a part of it. And I felt like, and it was great because, you accepted me. Right. So even though he does something a little bit different, he doesn't play on the ice, it's okay. He can help us be successful. So I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I wanted to get better at it, and it took off from there.
So the night that I'll never forget is this is West Point. We went up for the Penguins. I think we were there 3 or 4 days, and I don't remember it exactly as well as I'm sure you do, but we met you, I think, at 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night and had no clue what was going on. How did you decide what you were about to put us through?
Well, it was funny because I just mirrored the Special Forces assessment.
So I've done Special Forces stuff, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Right, you've done Special Forces assessment. So what we did is we just
Flamingo training.
Yeah.
for not wanting to block shots.
I'm the only Special Forces guy with a pink drink named after him.
So you're right, and you guys came out late at night, and next thing you know, we went to like 4 or 5 that morning, and I remember even the cadre that came out with me to help, they were like, "Oh, these guys are tough. This is awesome." Like they got into it too. Like, and there was no whining, no complaining, no one being a prima donna and being like, "Okay, this is what we have to do. Here's the task. Let's get after it." And that was a hard day. It was a hard day.
I was like, we have the day off tomorrow, right? We ended up getting that off from Terrian. So part of this is all, I remember we were all carrying heavy things early and you're walking. We must have walked 10 miles. And we finally get to a swamp. And this thing's neck high, if not neck high, waist, shoulder high. And we're like, what's going on now? He's like, get in. And I just remember being like in the pit. You couldn't see.
Imagine
You're pitch black on the forest. And he is in drill instructor JB mode. Let's go. And I was like, we're getting in? What the fuck? But he was telling me a great story of doing it with the Rangers guys. And they had some jeans on that weren't appropriate for that swamp.
Well, so I get a call, and my guys are like, "Hey, you need to get down to the swamp." I'm like, "What's going on?" I'm running around checking all the different, scenarios, evolutions that are going on, and I go down there, and I try to tell people like what to wear. Don't wear team gear because you're going to destroy it, but wear a tactical set of pants or something like that. And these guys had on like $1,500.
Yeah, Balenciaga jeans.
Yeah,
I probably know. Yeah,
so
$1,500.
So it was most of the Euros, and they took their jeans off,
Tight
and
jeans.
they wrapped them around their neck, and they were going through their underwear, and my guys are like, "This is amazing." I'm like, "Oh, adapt and overcome. Good job." And then it's funny because some of the Ranger staff was like, "Did you tell them to do that?" I'm like, "Nope, they got naked on their own." So
yeah.
What was Yager like during all this?
Yager was good. So Yager lost his shoe.
That's 2,800.
Yeah, lost his shoe, and Kasperitis was behind him. And Kasperitis was like, keep moving. And Yager's like, I lost my shoe. And Casper's like, just go without it. And literally, Yager did the rest of the 3.5 hours with one shoe on.
Oh, really?
And never complained. Yeah,
Jesus, that's hardcore.
One shoe on, never complained. I was like, okay, good job.
So when you first saw a drill instructor, did you ever think I'll be doing this someday? You couldn't have, because that is
no. And it's funny, I talk about it in my book, and I saw a drill instructor and I was scared to death, and the next thing
screaming at you in your face. You told me,
and next thing you know, I'm a drill instructor, so I'm doing this doing the same thing. But
do you have that same exact approach, or are you a little bit?
No, I'm a little bit more kinder, gentler.
He's like, I'm harder. He's like, I'm harder than that guy was.
Yeah, like that guy, if he goes overboard, he probably doesn't think about it, where if you do, you're like, I kind of want to tell him sorry, but I kind of can't. So what do you ever say, hey, sorry about getting hard on you there, but I needed to?
Yeah, you just don't say you're sorry.
Yeah.
You just chalk it up to experience.
Yeah,
I made that kid do 500 more push-ups than he probably should have, but it's good training.
Only makes him stronger.
Only makes him stronger.
Dealing with a lot of NHL guys, have you ever gotten, I know no one's ever probably gotten multi, but maybe roll their eyes or a little diva act, just because, percentages, maybe one of them might be a little pansy about it, or?
I mean, I think everybody's been good. I think George Larac wanted to go one time.
Oh, remember that. He was going to go you.
Why? Because he was pissed off at how much you guys had to do?
I don't remember exactly.
It was funny because he really had a good attitude about all the training, and next thing you know, they're like, actually Frankie Bonomo, your Penn's PR guy came to me and said, JB, I think Georgie wants to fight you. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, all right, George, come on. And it was good. No, everybody's been really good. People see that it's, what we're trying to impart on them. Look, here's the thing is I'm not trying to reselect them. They're not going to be an Army Ranger or Navy SEAL. That's not what they're trying to do. But what you're trying to do is just bring some of the attributes involved.
Okay.
They're positive attributes. Wit and biz and every young man that's selected on a team, they're selected for a reason because they're talented. So what I try to do is bring them into the fight as quick as possible. That's what you want to do. You heard Chara just not too long ago talk about like his team and how he brings guys.
Oh, that was a nice sound bite there. I think that was after practice, right?
Exactly, because even when I work with college teams, the first thing I do is I get rid of the rite of passage, and what you probably had in college: rookies pick up pucks, rookies do this, or something like that. I don't think there's no need for that. If you're selected on a team, that's because you can help that team win. I had it when I was in the Rangers. I remember when I was a platoon sergeant and we had people, graduate our indoctrination program. They come to the unit, and then the sergeant would be like reselected him. He's a FNG, new guy, that sort of thing. And I'd be like,
he's already here.
Why are you reselecting him? I need his gun in the fight. So let's get him spun up. The sooner his gun's in the fight, maybe that'll save my life. I can go home and see my kids. Yeah. So, and then when you tell people that, they're like, okay, I get it. So that's, and you both know, playing a long time in your career, that's a balance, right? You have to understand that when you're becoming a veteran and how you integrate people into the organization.
Oh man, I never understood when older guys were mean to the young guys. Where when I became, I couldn't wait to become a veteran because I enjoyed the fact that somebody was actually looking up to me, but I wanted them to make it feel part of it. Like those would be the first guys I'd be ribbing when they came in the locker room, but in a good way. And then I would be like, hey, you guys doing good? Because they don't have their younger cliques with the younger guys.
And they just want, honestly, they just want you to be like,
they want to be noticed.
They want to please. They want to please an older guy. That's what it's about.
And it's fun. You call them back to the bus. You say, hey, tell me a story. Did you get laid recently? I heard the boys chattering a little bit.
And he's like, yeah, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But RA, what you said about guys possibly being divas, and I remember that night. And at the beginning, you're thinking like, oh my, we're coming out here for 6. You don't know when it's ending.
Yeah,
you're meeting at 10 o'clock, and some guys are like, what the fuck? But then you just have so much respect for these guys and what they're doing and what they've done that all of a sudden the whole team buys in, and you're just like, I think that's like the respect people have for military, army, all veterans. It doesn't allow for an ability to complain about anything.
Right,
I remember that night and just being like, dude, we're in this. You felt like you were a part of what they do.
Okay.
Now, I know you're not going to throw anyone on the bus, but if there was one guy that you would be like, I definitely wouldn't want this guy in the Army.
Whit.
It would have been. You think you would have been the worst?
No, we were boys. I just had those.
Who's the one ankles. Guy that maybe there was a bit of an issue? Are you gonna?
He'll never throw him.
No.
All right.
Listen, I think everybody that I worked with, had the ability to be successful. Even people that were having problems with it, right? And sometimes the environment's not right for them, and you got to get them in the right environment. And when you do that and you care about people, like Whit and I talked about, I went to 10 NHL combines, and I evaluated anywhere between 65 and 100 players.
In the interview process?
In the interview process. And I wouldn't tell you who to draft and who not to draft. I just said, okay, if you draft Whit, this is what he's going to need, because he thinks different than you, Biz, than you, RA, thinks different, right? So you want to help identify those leadership attributes, those needs that person needs.
And the whole thing is that we chatted, like, you're expected to be a leader in pro sports, but some people, like, you don't know how to be one. You don't know how to be one. And he mentioned to me that guys go to West Point 4 or 5 years, and then they're still hoping by the end that they've trained them well enough to know how to lead. But you come into the NHL, and you're a young guy who gets the C put on your shoulder because you're the best player on the team. Well, you said you even talked to some guy recently in the working world who's like, I don't really know what I'm doing right now.
Right. Well, it's a common misconception that you're a born leader. Now, of course, your primary caregiver, your parents, they can, impart some of that leadership on you. But age 11 or 12, it's on you. And then all of a sudden you come into a team or an organization, and all of a sudden you're in charge of people, or 3 people, 4 people, 23 people, and okay, be the leader. Well, I don't even know how to be a leader. I'm barely leading myself. Leadership is a learned trait. You can learn it over time. And of course, like I said, West Point, you take 2 years to select these men and women from high school, put them through the process 4 or 5 years, and then saying, wow, I hope we did enough. Right? So it's a learned trait. So people that feel like they're not a good enough leader, you learn it over time. Of course, it's experience, but take some professional classes. That's why people call me, right? They look me up and say, hey, I need some mentorship, I need some leadership. Okay, let me help you. And that's what it's about.
You don't even care what they do.
I don't even care what they do. Like we talked about the different clients I have. So
Going back to the start, I mean, when you originally signed up, were you okay with structure always? Because all of a sudden you're getting thrown in the mix where it's like you're up at a certain time and you're on their time most of the time.
Well, fortunately, as humans, we are wired to deal with a regimented system, and that's what the military is. The military is a regimented system, right? Like this is when you're going to get up, this is when you're going to go to the bathroom, this is when you're going to march, this is when you go to a shooting range. So I dialed into that pretty quickly. And I'm sure you did it growing up with your teams, right? Keep your mouth shut and move forward.
Well, you said the dropout rate was so much. I'm curious to how many of these guys signed up and are like, man, like it's Saturday. I kind of just want to sleep in today. Like I don't want to get up and run.
College football's on.
Yeah. So, I'd imagine that's part of the drop-off rate.
And some people have that. A good friend of mine, he's retired from the Air Force, and we always go this Army Air Force thing because we'll tell stories. He's like, I could have never done that. Like if my AC goes out, I'm complaining. But he did honorable and terrific things in the Air Force too. But it's just kind of a different thought process. Listen, when you're in special operations, when you go there, you know that it's about the man or woman next to you. That's it. That's all that matters. Like if you want to find out about a teammate, who do you ask? One of their teammates, or you ask their trainers, right? So it's the same thing. Like if you're in a unit and you didn't do a good job, like it didn't matter if you got promoted or whatever, your mate knows you didn't do a good job.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to live with that. So, but it's, every single day when you went to work, you're like, did I do enough today to have a job tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right? Every day. Did I do enough today? Last easy day was yesterday. That whole thing. That's all true. Like you got to get after, you got to get at the gym. That's why even now I stay in shape. I work out every day because I want to be able to impart my leadership skills on people. So part of it is like getting on a structured system.
Yeah. It's pretty hard to be like trying to lead people and then you got a big beer gut up there and they're like, hey, like,
dude, who are you?
Yeah. When's the last time this guy had a salad?
Back to that night in Pittsburgh. Remember the PR guy? What happened? Did he get left behind?
Yeah, so I think his name was Keith, I believe. Keith.
Yeah.
We can beep that out.
Yeah.
So listen to this.
Well, so we started, and really we started at night, and we started with this they had to carry all this gear up this mountain, and we noticed, like we just started the exercise. We only been about 45 minutes in, and we noticed he'd started to become a heat casualty, right? So I called the medical heat casualty. He was like,
what's that? Yeah,
he was done. He couldn't go anymore. He was overheated.
His body went into shock.
Yeah. Well, not yet, but he was, he was profusely sweating, and so we stick him by this tree, and we gave him a 5-gallon water can of water, and we're like, here, sip this water, just sip it throughout the night. And so I called the medical team to come get him. Well, we went on the rest of the mission. So next thing you know, it's 4:00 in the morning.
We're getting on the bus.
These guys are getting on a bus, and Frankie Bonomo goes to me, hey, we're missing a guy. I'm like, and our mantra is like, never leave a man behind, right? and I'm like, so we get on this gator. We're driving tonight. It is now, like, you got to understand, we are at
pitch black.
Pitch black. It is pitch black. We're in the middle of the woods, Camp Smith, New York, middle of the woods. And we drive up, and I see the guy sitting by the tree, and he's like, I knew you'd come back for me. I knew you'd come back for me. And I was just like, that was good. So it was good.
You're like, oh, that's
and then the last funniest part of that was, I don't remember the exact setup, but I remember you had a couple Army Ranger buddies of yours and with some paintball guns. And did we have to go get a flag or something?
Yes.
But Evgeny Malkin had a classic line in this story.
Well, these guys were, they were assaulting this objective. This was the next day, and they were doing these different assaults. And so I had former
snipers.
Yeah. And so obviously using, elite paintball guns. And so Malkin was kind of maneuvering, and they saw him, and he was actually doing a pretty good job. So then they opened up with like a paintball machine gun. And, he takes cover, and he was like, they got the machine gun. They got the machine gun.
He's on the ground going, they have machine gun.
Probably learned that in Russian school.
Just getting painted.
He was great, though. You know what? He was great. Everybody that there worked so hard that day.
Well, I mean, we had him on the podcast, and this might have been a question you were going to ask, but Sid, he was there. Like, what type of leadership qualities did you see in him just from that experience?
First year's captain, I believe, that year.
Sid is one of the best leaders I have ever come across
in any walk of life.
In any walk of life. I've had personally walked with him. I watched him stop and hug some little kid and sign his autograph, and the kid was bawling like, I'm a Pee-wee player and I'm not very good. And Sid was like, yeah, I wasn't very good either, and like signed his jersey, and just like all these human touches, like, and because he's such a professional, he puts the hard work in, he cares about others, he responds positively. Like, that is exactly what you want in a leader in your organization. Exactly what you want. I got to tell you, another young man who's following that footsteps is Alexander Barkov in Florida. Oh yeah. Like, and he's got the Russian dad, the Finnish mom, and his dad, I believe, was an assistant captain in the Finnish elite league back in the day when they didn't let Russians be assistant captains. And his father was a great leader. And obviously imparted that on him, and he has those attributes too: hard work, caring, wants to be successful and wants to help his teammates be successful. Yeah. So yeah.
You and Vinny Viola, close friends. He's a West Point guy, correct? And
West Point guy, yeah.
And what is that like? When did he bring you into Florida? And I know there's a funny story about him. What were you doing? Going down a mountain or something?
So Vinny Viola bought the Panthers, I believe, in 2013. Then shortly after him, and he hired Eric Joyce, another West Point graduate.
He's from Boston.
He's from Boston. Played D at
Army.
Played D at Army. Yeah, had I think in 4 college years, had like 200 and some penalty minutes, which is pretty hard in college.
Yeah, you don't get that.
So don't get that. So hard-hitting defenseman Eric Joyce. He's the assistant GM there in Florida, and so he brought me in. We started to do leadership, culture development, and then I became this executive director of leadership and culture development, the first one in the NHL, I believe. And now it's kind of imparted some of the similar positions with teams. You see, the Anaheim Ducks just hired a former Navy SEAL captain. Leaf Mallow is director of athlete wellness. So we had a team building event with the Panthers, and we had to do rappelling off this 60-foot tower. And I just said, hey, it's I didn't want to force it on the players. I said, we're just going to volunteer. And Vinny walks up and he said, we're all doing it. I'm like, okay. And he's
just like stripes. Don't worry about it.
He's like, we're all doing it. I'm like, okay. And so, here's the owner of the organization. He climbs the tower, puts on his rappel seat. I hook him up. I said, sir, when's the last time you rappelled? He's like, 35 years ago on rappel. and he went down. And then he literally did it like 6 or 7 more times, like going down with players, like leading the way, leading by example.
Okay, so when they originally came in, they made some pretty bold moves in the front office there and kind of shook up the hockey world a little bit because it wasn't the way that things had been done in the past, right? And Florida in general kind of, they were trending downward, but now it's changed in the right direction. Like they're expected to make playoffs now. They got the Quinville there. I mean, I don't know how closely you're following it, but did you know eventually they were going to turn around just based on their background?
And the owner?
And the owner. And the moves he'd made, as I meant, they weren't good, but now eventually they've righted the ship. So do you think just based off the qualities from being there, you knew that was going to happen?
Well, Vinny Viola and Doug Sifu, the owners there, the one thing I can tell you about them personally is when they say they're all in, they're all in. Like a lot of owners say, yeah, I'm all in, but not really all in. Like it was like, what do they need? Like they would call me like, what do they need? Do they need better food? Do they need, better hotels to stay in? Tell me what they need. We're going to do it. And so they've made a financial commitment, but also a personal commitment. Yeah. And so that's why the team's trending up, and that's why they're doing great. And you look at like Las Vegas now, right? Like Vegas has done things that other teams haven't do. They've hired people that maybe didn't come from hockey, right? Kerry Bullboats, their team president came from, I believe, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the NBA. So, they went out and hired just talented people because they wanted the best. So I think when you look outside the box and you try to do those things, you can expand your way. Biz, that's a great question because people say, when you ask people to change, people don't fear change, people fear loss. And so when you ask people to change, they immediately think, oh, you want me to change my standards, who I am? No, I just want you to adapt to where we're going, right? And you see now coaches that are making it adapt to where we're going, right? The players think differently, the games differently. the way you promote the games differently. You have to continue to think differently. Shiro's doing it in New Jersey, right? I mean, the old Lou Lamoriello style, nothing against that, but now he changed it, and he's, you're a healthy scratch. Go to the front door and greet people. Like, put players out there. Like, let people see the players. Don't pull them away.
It's only going to grow the game.
Only going to grow the game. I remember when we had a signing in Florida, and Yogs was just on the team. And he had not been feeling well. So the PR guy was like, hey, Yogs, you only have to sign for 30 minutes. He's like, no. And Yogs stayed for 6 hours and signed for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody was there for him. Was taking pictures with kids and I'm like, wow, this is it. This is how you do it. This is how you grow. And our game is so good. And
good.
And when people say to me, I don't really like hockey, you know what I do? I take them to a game live.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden they're like, what?
Especially in Vegas.
Oh, I take them to a game live.
I was going to say, you live there, you got the team now.
I take them to a game live. And I got to say, the Vegas people are Vegas Golden Knights fans first, hockey fans second. Because sometimes I laugh because I hear him say things like, it's 4th down, we got to hold them. But it doesn't matter. They are Vegas. They are Vegas fans.
The top 10 TV ratings the last 2 years. Of course, last year they were in the Cup, so it was all right, the team's there. This year, they were one of the top 10 cities in the country, so it shows you. I mean, they're obvious hockey fans. I want to go back to the rappel story for a minute. Now, you said Vinny did it a couple of times. Wasn't one of the times one of the guys in the rope was leery of it? He wasn't a high-level player. What was the rest of that story?
There was an AHL player that was what happens when you rappel off of something above 10 feet, you have what's called a belay man, and that man loosely holds the rope at the bottom, and if you fall, you yell falling, and he just pulls down and it will stop you. The rope goes through the carabiner and stops you. Then you can kind of get yourself along the wall, right? If you watch any military shows, you see that. And this player, he said, "Who's up there?" And my one assistant was like, "That's Vinny Ball." He's like, "The owner? I'm not doing it." So he handed the rope off because he didn't want the owner to fall. Which
I'm in the AHL. Fuck, I can't be in charge of this guy.
You have to name names, but did any guys lose their grip doing that? Because I think I'd shit my pants trying to rappel 60 feet.
No, I think everybody did pretty good. Everybody worked hard at it.
Yeah. And,
we allowed people to get it. And that was just a great day of just team building. I got to tell you, that was a really good team. Willie Mitchell was the captain. It was the first time I got to spend time with Willie Mitchell, and he was very, very good captain at reading the tea leaves. He did small things in the locker room, maybe moving lockers, that sort of thing, to get the best out of people. And that's another thing a captain has to do. A captain has to be a great listener.
Shane Doan and Stan Wilson used to have conversations about where guys would sit in the locker room, and I never when I broke into the league, I was just like, "Oh, can I sit there?" And they would be like, "No, this is thought out here." And certain corners of the room would have a little bit more personality because maybe they weren't enough guys in that side of the room talking enough.
Sure. So
just to kind of get, build that team camaraderie. And it's amazing that it's as detailed as that.
Sure. I'm going to ask you two both a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So when you talk team chemistry, who's responsible for team chemistry? Is it the leadership, the coaches, GM, owners, or is it the players? Who's responsible for team chemistry?
I would say the players. I think it's on the players to be able to work out as a group. And it's funny you bring that up because I was going to say earlier, even with all your working on leadership and getting guys to become better at that, every business and every team, not everyone's always going to get along. That's just the way life is. But the ability for a team to be able to respect one another is the entire difference. So I don't think you're always going to have chemistry between every single guy, but if you respect one another, I think it ends up becoming on the players to appreciate and understand what each guy does and to figure out a way to do it together.
Well, I would say it's on the guys too, because ultimately the leadership group is communicating that to management through some form. And I mean, unless the management knows how it's going down, but I believe that they call them in, they say, how's the locker room? And then slowly you chip away and find the right guys who are going to... Or
guys who are issues. I mean, that's always been the case.
I'd say more so they're asking is everything good? There's been one case at the end of a season where I've been asked, hey, is this guy a problem? And I think most guys on the team got asked when, unfortunately, it was. And it was more, it wasn't throwing him on the bus. You just kind of shrugged your shoulders. It's like, well, you know why you're asking me that.
Yeah.
What do you want me to say? And I assumed they'd asked every guy, in which that was the case.
That's a great answer, both of you, and that's the right answer. Team chemistry is is the responsibility of the people in the organization, whether you're a business, a sports team. Now, the management, the leadership, the coaches have to massage it, ensure it's healthy. It has to be healthy. It can't be, you can't be off, doing things that are illegal or immoral, right? But team chemistry is built from the inside out. The other thing you have to understand is, even though if you're wearing a C or an A, like sometimes, you can't get to every person, but somebody else can, right? So it might be that other guy, right? Like I talk about like, subordinate leaders in an organization, whether with the Rangers, whether it was like Kevin Weeks or even Roberto Luongo or Vinny Trocheck or Sergei Gonchar, other leaders that can go get to one person and bring that person into the fold, right? And so even though leadership sometimes can be an island, many times it's a group responsibility to ensure it's healthy.
I remember when I was on Anaheim, Ryan Getzlaff, who's younger than me, he was the leader of the team. And one day after practice, he came over, and I hadn't, was struggling a little bit. He's like, "What's going on, man? How you feel? Like, I've seen Randy's been tough on you, And he was more just, he wanted to know like what my thoughts were. And I was like, well, I think this is kind of, I was getting blamed for that, and it was just, I remember thinking like, he's younger than I am, and he's doing such a good job at not just like asking me what's going on, but then listening to what I was saying. And I always thought like that is leadership. He's looking out for every guy. And it's after a practice in the middle of an 82-game season, he wants to go home and see his kids and his family, but he knows what it takes to get every guy involved. And that is when a guy's down or not playing well, to at least go over, chat him up, and try to fire him up in different ways than a coach would.
Oh, man. I mean, playing with Shane, I always go back to Shane Doan because he's probably the best that I had. But I remember when he had his jersey retirement, he thanked his wife. I'm like, this guy used to spend more hours at the rink talking to guys and really finding out, what's bothering you and listening and communicating with them. He was doing it with like half the guys on the team, and like, and not even just on the hockey side of things. It might have been guys dealing with issues at home with kids and wives. So like just the amount of time that this guy was doing juggling personalities and making sure everything was okay with the ship was a full-time job in itself, and to me, it's resonated with me. I still ask the guy for advice, so that's leadership.
Well, that's mentorship too, and that's right. You want to find somebody that can help mentor you, and when people ask me like, what are some things that you can help me be a leader in? And I say, bring value to the organization. Like if you walk by the copier and the copier needs paper, put paper in the copier.
Yes.
Don't walk on you.
Because it's not my job.
That's right.
Well,
like I came in today and there was an empty water bottle. I picked it up. I said, "Ma'am, this isn't mine. Would you like me to throw it away?" She's like, "Sure."
She's like, "Who is this guy?"
So bring value.
Lululemon, successful company, they force all their employees, no matter how far they go up the ranks, that they have to spend time in the store selling.
Yeah.
Like if let's say it's the CEO, it's got to be like 6 hours a month where they have to go and work as if at the bottom of the company, and it's kind of right back to that example.
Well, that's why, obviously I was fortunate enough to be a retired sergeant major, right? E9, the highest.
That's as high as you can
go. Like I started E1 private, scrubbing toilets, the whole thing. And you learn it as you go. And so you learn the value system, right? Of hard work and ethics and selfless service and integrity, honesty, commitment to one another. And when you learn those values, then you want to impart those values on people, right? And a lot of times we say, and you guys say too, it's not about money or medals. It's about the lives that I can affect. And people say, what do you want to do, JB? What's your goal? And I'm like, I want to forge individuals into leaders. That's what I do.
Yep.
Did you have a history of military service in your family before you joined?
So my father, God rest his soul, was a World War II veteran.
Okay,
fought in
nice.
the South Pacific. Yeah, very tough time. And
yeah, my grandfather was in South Pacific.
So he was over 3 years in constant combat there. So
3 years there.
Yeah, 3 years in South Pacific. So, look, I graduated high school and I knew I wanted to do something. I wasn't quite ready for college. I wanted to pay for my own college.
I'm sorry, what year did you graduate high school?
84.
Oh, okay.
So Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And again, the recruiter's like, "Yeah, I'll give you your college. Sign up for this." And I'm like, "Okay." I didn't really know what I was getting into. But, it's funny how, like, God puts you on a path, right? And it's you went to BU, it worked out for you,
Yep.
So, you played in Wheeling, right?
Wheeling, West Virginia.
I saw that. Wow, that's good.
Did you ever think at any point, and now your son, you just told me he's director of hockey, where is it?
At Westchester Skating Academy.
Westchester Skating Academy, so that's great. But did you ever think he would get involved with the military, the Army, or did you not want him to? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's funny because all three of my children very, very successful, all college graduates, and my oldest daughter helps me with my company, JBS Leaders, and so I thought I served enough for everybody.
Yeah.
But actually, my youngest daughter, she's a civil engineer. She graduated from Pitt, and when she was getting ready to find work, and she was like, yeah, maybe I'll join the military. I'm like, sure, I'll support that on them. But my son grew up at West Point, him and his good buddy Jack Riley, and good hockey buddies, Coach Riley up there,
great guy.
Like, I mean, just
he's done a hell of a job there too.
He's done a heck of a job.
You're getting guys that it's like they know what they're doing after school.
Yeah.
And they're still, a competitive team that's winning games. It's very impressive to see what they can get done there.
Just doing a great job. You guys all one day should just go up there and, just take a tour, go see Coach Riley and let him shuffle you around.
Speaking of West Point, can you tell the listeners what lunch there is like? Because we got to do it with Pittsburgh that day. I think it's 11 minutes. Was that what it was?
Well, the whole thing's like 20 minutes, but yeah. So
It's
basically you feed 4,000 cadets in 20 minutes. It's probably only about 11 minutes of eating. You start with some, they have this thing called the poop deck, and there's some, they have to go through a prayer, and then they have to do some announcements, and all of a sudden they're like, eat. And then as the lights go, you can leave. So when the first light goes, like the seniors can leave, and then, or the firsties as they call them, and all the way down. And it's amazing. So you eat actually family style. So you should take these guys up.
I know, that would be cool.
I never do that.
How's the food?
The food was awesome.
Yeah, food's great.
And the other crazy thing about when we went up there is, we looked over and we saw some guys just walking back and forth. And what ends up happening to those guys? Why are they doing that?
Yeah, it's called walking tours. So when you get a demerit or something, so if a sergeant like me comes in and, Biz, your room's messed up, I'm like, Biz, you're getting 3 demerits for this. And you're like, no, because, the weekends that you have free, which aren't very many, you're out in full dress uniform doing walking tours. So walking
back
down, walking back with your rifle, you have to do an inspection. So, yeah.
When you were starting out, would you guys sneak like sweets in or anything like that? Because it was probably the diet was probably regimented. Were you like, what was the thing like you guys were being badasses doing?
Yeah,
come on, there was something.
I
Playboy magazines.
No,
come on.
I tried never to sneak what they call that pogey bait candy and pogey bait candy soda. Those sort of things. But when I was a drill instructor, I noticed one night I came down. I was doing my inspection, and I noticed that one of the doors had been taped open, and I'm like, what is going on here? So I ripped the tape off the door. It was a fire exit door. It's shut. And so these 3 guys took money. They snuck over to the battalion headquarters where there's a candy machine and a Coke machine, and they just started filling it. And they came back with in their uniform, pounds of stuff. And next thing you know, they can't get back in. They're like, I can't get back in the door. I can't back in the door. So next thing you know, they see me come around the corner. And, drill instructors wear that brown round, that Smokey the Bear hat. And I was like, gentlemen, what's going on? I'm like, you have 1 minute to eat everything. Let's go eat it. Shove it down. They were like,
no.
Oh, my God.
You made them eat everything.
Shotgun everything. I'm like, and then after I did, I made them do some, guerrilla drills.
No.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Of course I
it
did.
all came back
Of course I did.
Yeah.
Did they puke?
They puked it all up.
You think they're just gonna get to eat it?
And-
Is that a jelly donut in your
I was
foot?
like, and I was like, gentlemen, good plan. Failed execution. You didn't have security. You should have had somebody on that door.
Absolutely.
That's right. So they,
absolutely.
they
That's so good.
Turned into a learning experience.
learned a valuable
on both
lesson
ends.
that day. Yes, for sure.
I'm also just reading through here the description of you, and this is on the website eliteleadershiptraining.com on the staff. And I'm going through some of the courses you went through in your military career. I'm curious, Halo Jump Master, what are those two? And then also Certified Advanced Scuba Diving Instructor.
Yeah, well, Halo's high altitude opening. It's a skydiving for military.
Okay.
So and high altitude low opening, and so I was also a jump master of that too. So I got to do about 400 skydiving halo jumps with equipment. Got to jump at 29,000 feet. So
That's what I was gonna say. That's the
yeah,
highest you jump.
29,000 feet. Yeah, at
Wow.
night. So it was a good.
What do you have on?
Oxygen with equipment.
Like, that's
black.
like Mission
So-
Impossible Tom Cruise shit level
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah,
right?
well, it was-
I mean, to
Yeah.
put it in
Yeah.
Hollywood terms,
It was good. I mean, there's a lot of men that do that very well. So
Yeah.
I was fortunate to be able to do that, go to the schools, learn things. I also went to survival school, which is called SEER, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, Escape. where
How
they
do you know when to
beat you
pull
up.
your chute?
Oh, well, they tell you. You pull 4,000 feet or,
Okay, so so you have your
yeah, you have an altimeter.
How long
okay.
was
Yeah,
how do you how long you actually drop them for?
Well, if you go from let's say 13,000 feet to 4,000 feet, that's probably about a minute of free fall flying.
Right, because you have to know it in case this thing, what do you call it? The
altimeter.
altimeter.
Yeah.
If that goes wrong, you got to know your surroundings, right? So that's why I asked. I didn't know you actually wore a
Well, the
wrist.
military wears an automatic opening device too, so in case you get kicked or something on exit
Okay.
and you're unconscious, it will fire below 4,000
Right.
feet.
and SEER survival. Sorry,
Survival, evasion, resistance, escape. It's basically a prisoner of war school.
and that is when if you are in the
You
forest,
if you get captured,
Holy
yeah,
shit.
what to do? Yeah,
What is
so.
that? That must have been some of the most intense training you've ever had.
Yeah, they
Beat the shit out.
No,
Is that like G.I. Jane when
Whoa.
it's
No, dude. They remember
yeah.
they capture her and
No.
they beat her.
Just funny move
Yeah,
to pull out.
it is like that, except
Real.
the cadre that run that, like, you never see them, and so
Okay.
all of a sudden, like, I went through in like 1993, so we had like a Russian group, a Colombian group.
So it's real. It
Yeah,
feels
and like
as
a
real
Panamanian, and they like look the part, they speak the part.
Jesus
and,
Christ.
Yeah, they hang you in.
and you're catching a beating.
Oh yeah, you get catching a beating. Yeah, they put you in hospital pajamas with.
Are you like, ooh, I kind of like this? Do I
yeah,
have a
no.
safe word?
Yeah. No, there's no safe word there. So it's good. So.
Oh well, this is awesome. You have anything else for us? I mean, this has been great.
No, you guys were great. So my website's actually jbsleaders.com.
Okay.
So, and or you can follow me on Instagram at jbspiso. My book's out if you like it. Put a review out. Tell
We
me.
should do a content piece at West Point where
you put us through.
Well, I was going to say RA.
No,
not us.
no way would I trust those two in a trust fall either. No way. Actually, I had one more. It might be kind of a strange one. You were in a lot of crazy situations, and people say, they have a moment like that. They have life flashes before their eyes. Did that ever happen to you?
I think because I was always in charge of people when I was in combat, I was never really worried about myself.
Okay.
But I think then afterwards, my buddy was like, "What are you doing? You ran from here to there and you were under fire." I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I thought about it afterwards and be like, "Wow, that wasn't very smart." But when you're trying to, when you're leading people, that's what you're worried.
You just
about.
get so locked in that
You get locked in. That's your job.
That's awesome, man.
Think about it afterwards.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
the military was it was great to me. I'm thankful. People say, "Oh, you're a hero." I'm like, no. But I was in a company of heroes.
And well, we're thankful.
I was
for
in a company
your
of
service,
heroes.
man.
So
That's-
thank you so much.
Absolutely,
That's
man. You guys do jobs that not very few people can do. What you guys do, and those jobs are necessary for us to have the society we have. So we appreciate it.
I think our following is really going to appreciate this interview.
I do too, and RA says it perfectly. Speaking for us, we thank you. We thank all your brothers, your the girls in arm, and I think that the craziest thing is that what you just said is that you just had a job to do, and it sounds way easier in sports. So we thank you, and your ability to motivate people has always been awesome since the day we met. So
Warrior Leadership: Steps to Success for Leaders on the Ground.
buy this book, and Biz saw it right away and liked it because it's skinny. He goes, "Oh,
you go.
good."
Hey, it's this will take me about 8 hours. He said people with normal reading levels can read it in two.
No
So-
pictures, Biz. There's no pictures. Just kidding.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that interview. And once again, thank you to Budweiser Canada for all their support of Spittin Chiclets and the ECHL Player Relief Fund. We greatly appreciate it. And as I've said before, head over to the social media of the ECHL and or Spittin Chiclets to find a GoFundMe where you can donate to help out a great cause, the ECHL Player Relief Fund.